Have you ever found yourself a little out of breath after climbing a flight of stairs, and you just kind of chuckle and think to yourself, well, I guess that's just part of getting older? Or maybe you've walked into the kitchen, completely forgotten what you went in there for, and just laughed it off? We've all been there. These small moments seem so harmless, so normal. But here is the frightening truth no one ever tells you. Those seemingly innocent moments are exactly how the most serious health threats after 75 begin. They start silently. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, has shown that the vast majority of deaths in this age group aren't from old age itself, but from a few specific conditions whose early warning signs we often dismiss. But here's what my 30 years as a family doctor have taught me, not from a textbook, but from sitting with thousands of patients just like you. These conditions are not a death sentence. In almost every case, they are preventable, or at the very least, can be delayed. The problem isn't that you can't protect yourself. It's that no one has shown you the simple ways. I'm talking about reality. I'll never forget my patient, Robert. At 76, he was practically a prisoner in his own armchair, overwhelmed by fatigue and a deep fear of falling. His family was quietly preparing for the worst. But then, we worked together on a few tiny, incredibly small changes to his daily routine. Just 6 months later, Robert was driving his wife to the grocery store again. That wasn't a miracle. That was the power of taking the right action. In this video today, we are going to walk through the 5 biggest health thieves that try to rob us of our independence after 75. And more importantly, for each one, I will give you a simple, free key to lock your door against them. And please, make sure you stay with me until the very end. The 5th danger is the most silent and overlooked of all, and understanding it is the foundation for everything else. The information in that final section might just save a life. Maybe even yours. Before we dive in, I truly want to know how many of us share this experience. If what I just described feels familiar, if you've ever had one of those moments, please take a moment to comment a simple yes below. It helps me understand, and it shows others in our community that they are not alone. Okay, let's get started. Alright, let's get into our first and most important health thief. This is the big one. Danger number 1. Heart disease, the silent engine. Now, I've had so many people sit in my office over the years and say something like, "Doc, it's in my genes. My father had a bad heart, and my grandfather too. There's not much I can do." And I understand that feeling of helplessness. But I often tell them this simple truth. Genetics might load the gun, but it's our lifestyle that pulls the trigger. The choices we make every single day have far more power than the hand of cards we were dealt at birth. So let's talk about what's really happening inside. I want you to imagine your arteries for a moment, not as complex medical tubes, but as a simple garden hose. For your entire life, your heart has been pumping blood through this hose. Now, high blood pressure, which is incredibly common, is like turning the water pressure up too high. Not just for a minute, but for hours, days, years, decades. What happens to a garden hose left under constant high pressure? It becomes stiff. It gets worn out. Weak spots can develop, and eventually, it might spring a leak or get a nasty clog. That is precisely what's happening inside your body. The constant, hammering pressure slowly damages the delicate lining of your arteries, forcing your heart to work harder and harder just to do its job. And here's why this becomes so critical after the age of 60 or 70. As we get older, our blood vessels naturally lose some of their youthful elasticity. They become a bit stiffer. Now, combine that natural process with a lifetime of choices. Maybe a diet a little too rich in those salty processed foods, the frozen dinners, the canned soups that are so convenient. You've just created the perfect storm inside your own chest. The most dangerous part is how it speaks to you. It doesn't scream in pain, not at first. It whispers. Do you ever feel just bone tired, even after what felt like a full night's sleep? Or have you noticed your ankles seem a bit puffy at the end of the day, making your socks leave a deeper mark than they used to? These are not just random signs of getting older. That is your heart sending you a message. It's a quiet plea for help, telling you that it's struggling to keep up. Countless studies from institutions like the American Heart Association have confirmed the powerful link between lifestyle and heart health. But numbers on a page don't tell the whole story. People do. Let me tell you about my patient, Eleanor. A wonderful woman, 80 years old, with a laugh that could fill a room. But her blood pressure was stubbornly, dangerously high. We were discussing adding yet another pill to her daily regimen, something she was really unhappy about. So, we made a deal. I asked her to change just one tiny thing. She loved to have a small bowl of potato chips while watching the evening news. It was her nightly ritual. I asked her if she would be willing to swap that bowl of chips for an apple. That's it. No complicated diet plan. No expensive gym membership. Just trade the chips for an apple. She agreed to try. 3 months later, she came back into my office, and I almost didn't believe the reading on the blood pressure cuff. For the first time in years, her numbers were in a healthy, safe range. She told me she felt lighter, had more energy. She felt better. Eleanor's story isn't about the magic of apples. It's about the incredible, life-changing power of one small, consistent choice. Now, I'm not going to ask you to overhaul your entire life overnight. That's not realistic. Instead, I want you to take a page from Eleanor's book. I'm asking you to make one small promise to yourself. For this week, I only want you to do one thing. Go for a 10-minute walk each day. Just 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be fast. It can be a gentle stroll around your block. If the weather's bad, you can even just walk back and forth in your living room while listening to the radio. The place doesn't matter. The movement does. Please, start today. Your heart has been beating for you, every second of every day, for your entire life. It's time you gave it a little something back. Alright, let's move on to our second danger. And this one is different, because it doesn't come from a virus or a disease. It comes from gravity. Danger number 2. Falls and injuries, the danger inside your own home. I'm going to say something that might sound surprising. For a person over 75, the most dangerous thing in their life is often not a health condition. It's a poorly placed throw rug. It's a dark hallway. It's a single step they didn't see. A fall can be the single event that changes everything, marking the line between a vibrant, independent life and a rapid, heartbreaking decline. So let's break down what's happening on the inside. Why does this become such a critical issue as we age? The challenge is, as we get older, several things happen at once. Our eyesight might not be as sharp, our reflexes aren't as quick, and crucially, our muscles, especially in our legs and core, begin to lose strength if we don't actively use them. These are the very muscles that act as our internal stabilizing system, catching us when we're off balance. When they weaken, we become less steady on our feet. This creates a truly cruel and vicious cycle, one I have seen play out time and time again. It starts with a near miss, or a small stumble. That creates fear. Because you're afraid of falling, you start to move less. You avoid the stairs. You decide not to take that walk around the block. You sit more. But the less you move, the weaker those critical balancing muscles become. And the weaker your muscles get, the higher your risk of falling becomes. It's a cruel loop that silently steals your strength, your confidence, and your freedom. So how does this show up in your daily life? It's subtle at first. Do you ever feel just a little bit wobbly when you stand up too quickly from a chair? Or do you find yourself placing a hand on the wall or reaching for furniture, just to steady yourself as you walk down the hall? That isn't just a random habit. That is your body sending you a clear signal. It's telling you that your internal balance system is getting weaker and needs some attention. And the statistics from the CDC back this up in a truly sobering way, showing that falls are a leading cause of fatal injuries among older adults. But more powerful than any statistic is a story. I remember a gentleman named Frank. After a minor fall in his backyard that thankfully only bruised his ego, he became deeply, profoundly afraid. This once active man who loved his garden became a prisoner in his own home. He wouldn't even walk out onto his front porch. His world had shrunk to the four walls of his living room. During a visit, we talked, and instead of focusing on the fear, we focused on one simple action. I asked him, every time he was waiting for his coffee to brew, to simply stand and hold onto the kitchen counter and try to balance on one leg. Just for 5 seconds. Then switch to the other leg. It felt silly to him at first. So small. So simple. But he did it. Day after day. Those 5 seconds became 10 seconds. Then 20. Slowly, almost without him noticing, the strength and stability began to return to his legs. More importantly, his confidence returned. A few months later, his daughter called me, overjoyed. She told me she had looked out the window and seen her dad, kneeling in his garden, tending to his roses. He broke the cycle. So, what can we do about this? You don't have to live in fear. You can take back control. Your assignment for this week is simple, and it could be one of the most important things you ever do for your long-term independence. I want you to conduct a safety walk in your own home. Look at your space with fresh eyes, as if you were a detective looking for clues. Are there electrical cords stretched across walkways? Are the corners of your rugs curled up, creating a tripping hazard? Are the pathways between rooms cluttered? Is there a good, bright nightlight to guide you to the bathroom at night? Please, do not wait for a fall to happen. Take action now. Your home should be your haven, not a minefield of hidden dangers. If this information is hitting home for you, if it makes you think, please comment with the word safety below. It's a powerful reminder for yourself, and for everyone else in this community, that we have the power to protect ourselves. Alright, let's talk about our third danger. This one is so fundamental to life that we often take it completely for granted. It's the air we breathe. Danger number 3, respiratory diseases, the unwelcome guest. We take somewhere around 20,000 breaths every single day. 20,000. It's the most automatic, unconscious thing we do. We don't think about it, we just do it. And we never truly appreciate the beautiful ease of a deep, clear breath until we can't take one. For many people over 75, breathing becomes a conscious effort, a daily struggle. But it absolutely does not have to be that way. To understand what's happening, I want you to think of your lungs as a pair of brand new, springy balloons. When you're young, you can easily blow them up to their full size, and when you let the air out, they snap right back to their original shape. They are incredibly efficient. But over many decades of use, like old balloons, they naturally lose some of that perfect, springy elasticity. This means it becomes a little harder to push all of the old, stale air out, and a little harder to pull in a full, fresh breath of clean oxygen. This reduced efficiency is a normal part of the aging process. But there's another crucial piece to this puzzle, and this is where the real danger lies. Our immune system, our body's loyal and hard-working security guard, just isn't as quick or as strong as it used to be. In our younger years, that security guard would spot an intruder, like a cold virus, and immediately tackle it before it could cause any real trouble. Now, that guard is a little older, a little slower. It might not notice the intruder right away, or it might not have the strength to fight it off as effectively. This is the reason why a simple chest cold, something you would have easily shaken off in a few days when you were 40, can now sneak deep into the lungs of an 80-year-old and blossom into a dangerous, life-threatening case of pneumonia. The defenses are just not what they once were. So, how does this trouble usually start? It rarely announces itself with a loud bang. It starts as a whisper. Do you have that nagging little cough that just never seems to fully go away? The one you might blame on seasonal allergies, or maybe just dry air in the house. Or have you found yourself getting winded, needing to catch your breath after doing simple, everyday tasks, like making the bed or walking to the mailbox? Please, listen to me when I say this. That is not just a normal, acceptable part of getting older. That is your lungs, sending out a warning flare. It's a signal that they are under strain and need your support. And I want to talk about one of the most powerful, yet tragically overlooked, pieces of evidence I have seen in my career. It's not from a fancy medical journal. It's from real life, year after year. Every single autumn, I see the same, predictable pattern. My patients who come into the office and get their yearly flu shot sale through the winter months just fine. But inevitably, I will get a call in the middle of January or February. It will be from the hospital. One of my patients who didn't get around to it, or forgot their shot, is now admitted, struggling to breathe, fighting a severe case of influenza that has turned into pneumonia. It breaks my heart every single time, because it is so preventable. So what can you do, starting this very day, to give your lungs the support they deserve. I want you to give them a simple, daily workout. It takes less than 1 minute. Right now, wherever you are, I want you to sit up straight in your chair. Now, take a slow, deep breath in through your nose for a count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Feel your chest expand. Hold it for just a moment. And now, breathe out slowly and completely through your mouth. Think of it as a gentle stretch for your lungs, helping them stay flexible and strong. And there is one more thing you can do. One 5-minute action that could literally save your life. Sometime this week, please pick up the phone and call your doctor's office. The conversation is simple. Just ask the nurse or receptionist, "Am I up to date on my flu and pneumonia vaccines?" That's it. That one phone call, that one simple question, is one of the most powerful investments you can make in your future health and independence. Okay, let's move on to the fourth danger. This one is perhaps the most frightening for many people, because of how suddenly it strikes. It arrives without any warning. It's like a lightning bolt from a clear blue sky. Danger number 4. Stroke, the sudden thief. A stroke happens in an instant, but it is almost always the result of years and years of quiet, internal damage. It is the tragic final act of a play that has been going on behind the scenes for a very long time. And here is the most important, most hopeful, and perhaps most shocking number I will share with you today. According to the American Stroke Association, up to 80% of all strokes are preventable. That number should stop you in your tracks. It means that for 8 out of every 10 people who suffer this devastating event, it didn't have to happen. It means that the power to protect your brain is largely in your hands. To understand how to prevent a stroke, we first need to understand what it is. Let's go back to our garden hose analogy for a moment. We already talked about how high blood pressure is like turning the water on too high, slowly wearing out the hose. Now, I want you to imagine that inside your brain, there's a vast network of tiny, delicate hoses. A stroke happens in one of 2 ways. Either one of those tiny hoses gets blocked by a clog, cutting off blood flow, or the pressure becomes so great that one of those little hoses bursts. In either case, the result is the same. Brain cells are suddenly starved of the oxygen they need to survive, and within minutes, they begin to die. That is a stroke. The damage is swift, and it is often permanent. So what causes the clogs and the high pressure? High blood pressure is, without a doubt, the number one culprit. It is the slow, steady force that weakens the walls of those delicate blood vessels over time, making them much more likely to burst or clog. But there's another common cause that I see all the time, and many people are completely unaware they have it. It's an irregular heartbeat, most commonly a condition called atrial fibrillation, or AFib for short. What happens is that the heart doesn't beat in a nice, steady rhythm. It quivers, or fibrillates. This allows tiny pools of blood to stagnate inside the heart's chambers, and those pools can form small clots. If one of those tiny clots breaks free, it can travel directly up to the brain, block one of those delicate vessels, and cause a major stroke in seconds. Now, a stroke rarely gives you a second chance, but it does often send out a postcard, a little warning of what's to come. We call these mini-strokes, or TAs. Have you ever, just for a moment, felt a sudden numbness or weakness on one side of your face, or in one of your arms? Or have you ever had a sudden, frightening moment where you couldn't find the right words, or your speech came out jumbled and confused? Even if that feeling passed in a few minutes and you felt perfectly fine afterwards, you must not ignore it. That is a blaring fire alarm. It is a TIA. It is your body screaming at you that a major stroke could be imminent. I saw a patient once, a man named George, who had one of these episodes while eating breakfast. His wife noticed his face droop for about a minute. Then it passed, and he insisted he was fine. He didn't want to cause a fuss. 2 weeks later, he suffered a massive, debilitating stroke that left him unable to speak or care for himself. If they had called 911 at that very first sign, his story could have been completely different. Early detection is everything. That's why regular checkups, where a doctor can simply listen to your heart and check your blood pressure, are not just routine. They are a lifeline. So, what is your mission? I want you to memorize a simple, 4-letter word, FAST. This is the universal sign for a stroke. F is for face. Ask the person to smile. Does one side of their face droop? A is for arms. Ask them to raise both arms. Does one arm drift downward? S is for speech. Ask them to repeat a simple sentence. Is their speech slurred or strange? And D. T is for time. If you see any of these signs, it is time to call 911. Immediately. Please, take a moment this week to teach FAST to your spouse, your children, and your grandchildren. Put it on your refrigerator. Knowledge is power, and in the case of a stroke, this knowledge is the power to save a life. Don't ever hesitate. Every second truly counts. We've now arrived at our fifth and final danger. And in many ways, this is the one that people fear the most. It's the one I promised you we would cover, because it sits at the very foundation of all the others. Danger number 5. Cognitive decline, the ghost in our memories. For so many people I've talked to, the deepest fear of growing older isn't about physical illness. It's not about the body failing. It's the fear of the mind fading. The fear of losing the precious memories that make us who we are. The fear of one day looking at a loved one and not recognizing them. It's the fear of losing ourselves. But I want to tell you something incredibly important. Your brain is not like a car that simply runs out of gas. It is a living, dynamic organ. And just like a muscle, it can be strengthened, or it can be allowed to weaken. Let's talk about the science behind this, because it's truly fascinating. For a long time, we thought of the brain as being separate from the body. But we now know that is completely false. Your brain is deeply connected to everything else. Think about this. Research has shown that chronic loneliness and social isolation can physically shrink the brain. When we don't engage in conversation, when we don't connect with others, the neural pathways, the little communication highways in our brain, start to go quiet. They become less active. And just like a muscle that isn't used, they begin to weaken. On the flip side, physical exercise, like the simple 10-minute walk we talked about earlier, does something incredible. It increases blood flow to the brain, delivering a fresh supply of oxygen and nutrients. It's like watering a garden. It helps new connections grow and keeps the existing ones healthy and strong. But there's also a major enemy to our brain health that we have to talk about, and that is chronic inflammation. Think of inflammation as a slow, simmering fire inside your body. A major source of this fire is a diet high in sugar and processed foods. This low-grade, constant inflammation is one of the biggest enemies of a healthy brain, contributing to the damage that we see in conditions like Alzheimer's disease. So, how does this slow decline begin to show itself? It starts with little things that are so easy to dismiss. Forgetting where you put your car keys from time to time. That is perfectly normal. That happens to everyone. But when you start frequently losing your train of thought in the middle of a conversation, or when you find yourself struggling to follow the plot of your favorite TV show, or when a simple task that you've done 1,000 times, like balancing your checkbook, suddenly feels confusing and overwhelming, those are the early warning signs. That is your brain signaling that it's struggling. And the consequences of this are not just about memory. As cognitive ability declines, a person's ability to care for themselves begins to crumble. They might forget to take their heart medication. They might forget to drink enough water and become dehydrated. They might leave the stove on, creating a fire hazard. The loss of the mind often leads directly to the decline of the body and the loss of independence. But here is the beautiful, hopeful truth. I have had the distinct honor of caring for patients well into their 90s who are still as sharp as a tack. And when I talk to them, I almost always find a common thread. They are lifelong learners. They are deeply connected to others. I think of my patient, Margaret. At 92, she runs a book club at her local library. Another patient, David, at 89, learned how to use a tablet during the pandemic just so he could video chat with his great-grandchildren across the country. They never stopped challenging their minds. They never stopped engaging with the world. They prove every single day that cognitive decline is not inevitable. So, here is your final, and perhaps most important, task for this week. It's an action to feed your brain. Sometime in the next few days, I want you to pick up the phone and call a friend or a family member you haven't spoken to in a while. Not for any special reason. Just to talk. just to have a real conversation. Ask them how they are. Tell them a story. Just connect. Please, I urge you to nourish your brain. It is the most precious asset you have. Read a book. Do a crossword puzzle. Take a walk. Every single one of these small actions is a powerful investment in your future clarity, your future independence, and your future self. As we come to a close, I want you to think back to the story I shared at the very beginning. Remember my patient, Robert? The gentleman who, at 76, felt like a prisoner in his own armchair, his world shrinking with every passing day? Today, at 78 years old, he's out in his yard, teaching his grandson how to plant tomatoes. He isn't just surviving. He is truly living. He is creating memories. The incredible difference in his life wasn't some new, expensive prescription or a complicated medical procedure. It was his simple, courageous decision to take that first, small step. And his story brings us to the single most important message I hope you take away from our time together today. Your health in these golden years is not a game of chance. It is not a roll of the dice. It is the result of 1,000 small, powerful choices that you, and only you, have the power to make every single day. From the 10-minute walk that strengthens your heart, to the safety check that prevents a fall, to the phone call that nourishes your brain. You have so much more control than you might believe. We've talked about these 5 critical dangers, but knowledge is only powerful when we put it into action. So now, I have one final and very important question for you. What is the one small change you promise to make for yourself this week? It could be as simple as, I will take a 10-minute walk every morning, or I will teach my family FAST, or I will call my sister tomorrow. It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be a start. Please share your personal commitment in the comments below. Writing it down makes it real. And seeing your commitment might just be the inspiration someone else needs to make their own. Let's fill the comments with hope and action. And if you found a little bit of hope or a useful piece of advice in our time together today, you can show your support by giving this video a simple like. To make sure you don't miss our next conversation, please hit that subscribe button. It's more than just a button. It's your way of joining a community of people who are all dedicated to living their best, healthiest lives together. And finally, if there is just one person in your life who you thought of while watching this, a spouse, a sibling, a dear friend, please share this video with them. You never know whose life you might touch. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time with me. Stay healthy, stay strong, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.